All right, so I've been at General Assembly for just about it's week 7, so just shy of 2 months now. And so far we've learned a large overview and then some really granular details about the front end of web development. I wanted to do a bit of a review with you. This will hopefully be as beneficial to you as it is for me, because honestly, I think it's time for me to take a little bit of a pulse of where I'm at relative to where I want to be over the next few months. So we're going to be using a front-end web developer roadmap from roadmap.sh. I'm going to link it in the description below. It's a really awesome website. They have a lot of really high-quality charts for pursuing a career in front-end, back-end, DevOps, project management, a lot of different professional tech career paths. So it's a really good place to go for reference if you're looking for kind of holes in your education, or you want to get a general idea of where you stand relative to where you might want to be. As we go along, I'm going to kind of give you a brief description of what I've learned about the topic, and if there's a deficiency, kind of look into it for a quick second and see what I'm missing and how I need to improve. Now, just so you know, I'm not going to fulfill all the requirements on this list. I'm already well aware of that. The learning that we're doing in General Assembly is kind of asynchronous in that we have spent a chunk of time learning the basics and a lot of the really important parts of dealing with the front end of web development. Now we're transitioning into the back end, and then at the latter half of our bootcamp experience, so for the last 3 months, we're going to be learning full stack engineering. So integrating those two with React and being able to work on both ends of the stack. So there's a lot of things now that I don't know about front end that is going to be learned as I start to integrate the front and the back end. All right, so we'll just start at the very top here. How does the internet work? I assume this is probably just talking about servers and a global network of computers connected. So you have basically a server and a client, and they interact with each other. That's how they get a lot of information. I could dive a lot deeper into all of these, but I just want to give a general overview of whether or not it's been covered, and just like a quick 2 cents on what I understand about it. HTTP is a hypertext transfer protocol, I believe. It's basically the communication that happens between a server and a client, if I'm not mistaken. All the statuses that you hear of are HTTP statuses. So like 200 means that it loaded successfully, if I'm not mistaken. 404 is the most common one, not found. Things such as that. Let's see here. It is stateless. Yeah, exactly. Which means that there's no storage of that. So when I first started, I thought HTTP is how your browser history was stored. Turns out that's actually done on the browser end of things. So when you go to a specific website, your browser catalogs that independent of HTTP. So that's kind of interesting. Oh yeah, there's a bunch of methods within HTTP. Actually, there's 4: get, post, put, and delete. This is basically what manipulates what you see in your browser. It's how things change within the browser when you get a response back from a server. Hosting is just a service that allows you to publish a website to the internet. There's a lot of different hosting services. What is a domain name? It's basically an address. There's more to it than that, though. Let's take a look. I have some notes here from class. Let's see. Here's an overview of the server client architecture. Kind of cool. So a request is sent from the client to a server, and then the server spits out a response. URL. Okay, so yeah, we got the domain name, the protocol. So it lists the protocol that's being used. Subdomain. So that would be like maps.google.com, video.google.com, whatever it may be. And then a bunch of other stuff. Query. So that's like saying, is the video playing, if I'm not mistaken? Parameters and fragment. I'm not 100% caught up on like what some of these are. Something I have to kind of look into. DNS. DNS is like a library for domains. Don't know a ton about DNS. Something I should probably look into as well. But as far as I understand, it's similar like a phone book. It is a huge list of domains. So that's about it. I have a little bit of brushing up to do on this. We're actually going further into this on the back end side of learning. So we've started learning quite a bit about this by now. We're covering this quite a bit more. But once we come down here, HTML and CSS. So learn the basics. This is probably just going to be basic formatting, etc. totally. Semantic HTML is basically just like, instead of, as far as I understand, instead of using divs for everything, you can use specialized tags for whatever it is you have, whether it's a header or an article or a footer, etc. A lot of these things are all divs by nature. It's just they have some more semantic names now, so that's pretty important to be able to use those so people can read your code. Forms and validations. Yeah, so there's some validation you can do. Pretty basic. It does require some JavaScript, so we didn't learn this right off the bat. And we actually haven't gone through form validation specifically yet. As far as my understanding goes, there's a lot of regular expressions that can go into validating a form, and we have not gotten there yet. But yeah, I'm aware of that from previous studying. Conventions and best practices. Actually, I really liked this here. Yeah, I'll put this in the description too. But I hope it's recording this page. But this is a huge document of HTML best practices. I mean, you can really go down a rabbit hole with this, so I'm not going to go very far. But yeah, we will just call it at that. But that's a really good reference. I'll put that in the description. Okay, check. Accessibility, SEO basics. We haven't really gone over these. I'm interested in learning more about SEO though, so I'm not sure if they'll cover that in the bootcamp, but that would be cool. CSS, we absolutely learned the basics, just basic styling, some of the basic properties and how to do different class tags, ID tags, things such as that. And let's see, responsive design and media queries. I'm not sure that we've gone over that yet. I think we have. One of the things about the bootcamp that I'm attending is we're kind of separating a little bit. The front end and back end are separate. So we spent unit 1 going through front end, at least like learning the primary, like the basics of front end software development. During the second module, we're going through the back end web development, learning a lot about that. And then for the last 2 modules, so 3 months, we're combining those two into full stack development with React and some higher level teachings about these specific technologies. So making layouts. Yeah. So it's positioning, display. Yep. We went over for sure. Display, box model, grid, flexbox. All of this was pretty thoroughly covered. JavaScript, syntax and basic constructs. So, I mean, this is like really kind of first day of JS stuff. You know, how to declare variables, the difference between let, var, and const, such as that. Let's see. DOM manipulation was pretty early on as well. Fetch API. Yes, we have learned the Fetch API, although we just started learning that pretty recently. So that was like kind of at the back end of the front end. Of course, let's see. Understand the concepts, hoisting. We've covered, definitely covered event bubbling and scope. Prototype. Shadow DOM, I'm not sure what that is. Version control. Actually, one thing that I liked about this bootcamp is the first day we were using the command line interface, which was super helpful. I hadn't used it very much, and I was like immediately learning a lot about how to use a CLI. And with that comes some familiar. It kind of makes you less afraid to be on Git and GitHub and run push commands and commits and whatnot. So that was really helpful. We have used GitHub a decent amount. Basics of Git, totally. Let's see, web security. Not really. Haven't talked much about security at this time. That's about it. I mean, we've started to learn about NPM in the backend because we're using things such as Express and Node. So you have to use NPM to use those. But until we got to the backend, we really weren't using NPM at all. So we have started to learn about that. It's really cool. I've been digging it. It's amazing how quickly you can get so many different functions and features within your application. So yeah, that's about it. I mean, you know, we're not even halfway down the front end. But this is like not exactly how the bootcamp that I'm going to is laid out. We're going to be learning React in the next in the third block of learning, and we are definitely going to be learning some CSS frameworks as well. I believe Bootstrap. Let's see. Don't come with JS framework components by default. Oh, interesting. I've heard a lot about Tailwind. I might look into Tailwind as well. Anyways, obviously there's still quite a ways to go. This wasn't to preview the fact that I had learned everything there is to learn about front-end web development. I just wanted to give you a realistic idea of kind of where you can expect to be after several weeks in a coding bootcamp, specifically General Assembly. All right, so there's that. There's a summary recap of what I understand about kind of just the broad level of front-end engineering in general after about 6 weeks at General Assembly. So I feel pretty good about what I know so far and what I've learned. A lot of it was review. I spent quite a bit of time studying before I signed up for a coding bootcamp, which I always recommend. And things are going to be getting a lot more, I don't know if I'd say difficult, probably difficult, but definitely a lot newer to me at this point as we venture into the back end of web development. So I'm really excited to go through that, but I'm also well aware that there's a lot that I don't know that I need to really be vigilant about spending a lot of time learning. So that's about it. Thanks so much for watching, and I hope this was helpful for you if you're considering going to a coding bootcamp. Peace.